Hi Dosers, my name's Miranda and I'm one of the staff at the Temecula campus. And I remember right after I had miscarried, someone once told me, "It's okay, you're gonna get over it." And it took everything in me not to respond with a throat punch. But seriously, I had to take a deep breath and I had to lovingly tell them that's just not how grief works. And if you're in a grief journey, there are days that feel better than others. There are days where you feel seen and there are days where you completely feel alone and like no one understands. And I know in a grief journey, our prayers look different. I know for me, my prayers look different. There are days where it's full of thankfulness and gratitude, and then there's days where it's full of doubts and frustrations. There's days where I'm just soaking in God's truth and promises, and then there's days where I'm just sitting in silence before the Lord with tears running down my face. And today we're going to look at a woman whose name is Hannah, and we can find her in 1 Samuel 1. And we're going to see that she goes through this invisible grief, and year after year she's provoked and she's misunderstood, and yet she persistently comes to the Lord with her longing through prayer. And so, 1 Samuel 1, there's a husband whose name was Elkanah, and he had two wives. One was Peninnah, and the other was Hannah. And Peninnah had many children, but Hannah had none, and we're going to pick up in verse 3. It says, "Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, 'Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?' Once, when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. And she made a vow, saying, 'Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head.' As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk, and he said to her, 'How long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine.' 'Not so, my lord,' Hannah replied. 'I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief.' And Eli answered, 'Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him.'" Now, if you're a lady or a woman who is going through infertility, you understand Hannah's cry and you understand her deep anguish. And we read year after year, she was constantly provoked by Peninnah. She was misunderstood by her husband, and she was misunderstood in the moment worshiping before the Lord and praying to the Lord by the priest Eli. And if you're a woman going through infertility, my heart grieves with you. And I love that God kept this story and what Hannah went through in the Bible because it mattered to him. And our season and the journey that we're going through, the grief that we're going through, matters to God as well. And I want to challenge those. Maybe you're not in a grief season, or maybe you're not going through infertility. I want to ask you, what is God challenging you to wrestle with so that you can grow more dependence on him? And how are you seeing God in your grief journey, or maybe in your journey of celebration? I know for me, this season has been a long 4 years, but my prayer has completely changed from month 1 to year 1 to year 2 to year 4. It has honestly taken me 4 years to vow to the Lord through prayer and say, "God, if you're going to keep me in this season, I need you to use me in this season. And I'm tired of feeling stuck, but I really want to glorify you with everything that I go through." And so, Dosers, my challenge to you, if you're in this season, I want you to feel encouraged by this and know that God hears you, he sees you, and he loves you. And don't let this season go wasted, because every season matters. Have a good day, Dosers.
Thanks for joining us for this Daily Dose. We would love to be able to hear other topics you would like us to cover. Put them in the comments below. And remember, like and subscribe.